This is Migrate FileMaker session 3. And in this video, I wanted to do a full walkthrough of a FileMaker migration using Claude Code. And I started recording it. And then when I went back and I realized the amount of editing I had to do to make it watchable, I was like, forget about this. I'll figure that out later. I'm just going to record a video showing you what I have now. I'll just walk through some of the things that I did. And hopefully I'll be able to figure out how do I do a full walkthrough that's enjoyable to watch, because a lot of time you're just waiting for Claude to finish, you're arguing back and forth, and it's really not very interesting. And I don't have enough to say during those downtimes to make it interesting, so I would have to do a lot of editing. But anyway, this time what I did is I found a different solution. It's called GFM Business. This is a German solution, also ERP, that has tons of tables, tons of scripts. It's a multi-file solution. GFM Business is the interface file, and then you have all these other data files. It's a total of 8 DDR files. And I followed the same process that I followed before with FM Starting Point. I ran Migrate FileMaker. It parsed out all the objects out of it. So here are all the JSON files. Then I ran PRD Builder, and it created a document with all the features and a checklist of all the things that need to be done under each one. So for example, here we have F1, authentication session management, and then all the different tasks. And you see they're checked off because I already built it. Then I ran Design Builder, and Design Builder created the page components, the design spec. So basically all this stuff in here was pre-created, but I found a little issue. It wasn't using a UI library like I specified. I said use Shadcn, and then it started creating its own components from scratch. So I'm glad I caught that. I tweaked the skill a little bit to make sure that it really looks at the decision for the component library, and then it uses that instead of building its own. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. Hopefully it will work next time. But yeah, it did a pretty good job at keeping everything consistent. If you look at all these pages, I'm just going to click real quick here. If you see how all these list views, see they're all nice. They're all the same. And then if you click and look at these forms, same thing. You can see they're all consistent. That doesn't mean they're perfect, but it's a lot easier to make changes when everything is set up correctly in terms of, reusing the components and having shells for your page. And it's just not everything is just inline styles everywhere. Now, the last thing that I did here that was a little different is I was able to get the Ralp loop to work. So I was doing it wrong. I wasn't passing all the parameters correctly. So I'll just run a quick terminal here. So if you see Ralp loop, you have to pass the prompt. So basically the prompt is complete the PRD and check off each task as you go. Max iterations, I did 15, and I don't think it was even close to that, so you can play with that. And then completion promise, when all the PRD items are checked off, then you're done. Make no mistakes. And that ran for a long time. I don't even remember. I think I just walked away. And it did a pretty good one shot. So I had all these pages were already there. I had some errors that I had to then feed it back. So it did fix some things after that. And I was having a hard time because everything was in German. So it came out in German. And I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand the errors. So then I asked it, okay, can you translate the whole application? Let's have a switch between German and English. That would be cool. So it went and created this localization plan, identified all the strings that need to be translated. And then I ran a Ralp loop on the localization plan, and it implemented everything. So now I have this switch. You see here, I can switch between English and German. Yeah. And the other thing it did correctly this time is it created the PDF functions. So now if you see all these documents have their corresponding PDF print buttons, and that's working really nice, and it looks nice. Yeah, so here we go. that's what we have. GFM Business migrated from FileMaker to full stack in one day. It's not complete. It's not perfect. I would say now the hard part begins, which is going through every single little thing, making sure that everything is working, getting your users involved in testing and, signing off on the requirements and all of that. But the amount of development that you can do with Claude Code is really incredible, because this would have taken weeks to put together. It would have been very expensive to do if you were just, billing hourly or whatever. And now using Claude to get all this done so fast in one day. And now you can focus on the important work, which is making sure that this satisfies the requirements, the business process for your customer, that everything that they need is here. And how can you make it even better? Like, what's the next step here? In the sitting room, for example, I started creating UI for interacting with the database through AI. So just putting that on top of this would be a huge improvement. So instead of having to click around everything, you can use natural language to ask questions about your data, to perform different operations, or whatever the case may be. So that's where I am with this GFM business. This is Migrate FileMaker Session 3. Tons of potentials using Claude Code to extend, migrate, expand your FileMaker world and skills. And if you have any questions, let me know. Always happy to help.